Hello there, thanks for watching this recording. It's good that you've done that and I appreciate it, and I trust that God would really bless you through his word today. We're continuing to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 1, and we've worked really our way up to verse 17 or 18. Let me read to you verse 18. I'm going to read verse 18 and down to verse number 21. And we'll see what we deal with today. Okay, it says, "For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and will bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Hath not God made foolish the wisdom of this world? For after that in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe." Now really, in one sense, this is the very foundational basis of the preaching of the death, burial and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Paul is dealing with a church that has become divided, and he's dealt with their divisions in verse 10 to 17 and said to them, do not be divided. It's not biblical, it's not God-honouring, it's not good for God's people. In this section, he's going to deal with their intellectual tendency to focus on clever arguments as opposed to the basic preaching of the cross. And in verses 18 to 31, he'll deal with the foolishness of God in comparison to the wisdom of men. Now, that's a strange way to put it. But what he's going to argue is that what they deem to be God's foolishness is actually more intelligent than the very wisdom of men. The foolishness of God is higher intelligence than the highest intelligence that man can bring to bear upon any subject or situation. You'll notice what it says here. The preaching of the cross is to them that are perishing foolishness. Now that is just normal, isn't it? People would think that to preach about Jesus and dying on a cross and that his death could cancel out sin and he could bring a fallen race to God and he could save their souls, that was a very strange and foolish message to bring to bear upon anybody's life. That is a strange old message, and that's what the world would say. The preaching of the cross is to them that are perishing, people in that sphere, in that state. It is a foolish thing. Now, Paul is going to talk about that as he works his way through these verses. And he's going to refer back to an Old Testament passage. He's going to refer back to Isaiah chapter 33, and he's going to talk in both, he's going to do Isaiah 29 and 33. Verse 19, he says, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. You know, Job said a similar thing. Back in Job chapter 11, he says this, can you by searching find out God? Can you find out the Almighty unto perfection? In other words, what he's saying is man so clever that with his intellect he can work God out? Paul is saying, no, that's not the way God has ordered it. Job is saying man by his cleverness cannot search out God. The psalmist talks about God searching the depths and man searching the heights, and you cannot find God out by intellectual cleverness or argument. That's what Paul is going to talk about here. He'll talk consistently through this letter about wisdom and the wisdom of man. He'll say there's not many who are of that intellectual bracket that come to Christ. Now, thankfully, he doesn't say there's not any, and we know that there are those, indeed many, over the years, but not many at one point in time. The majority of people who come to Christ are ordinary folk, people who see their need, see their sin, not the clever, the intellectual who argue themselves out of the situation. You'll notice he says in verse 26 of the chapter, not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble. In fact, when you go through and look at the arguments, he's going to deal with the wisdom of God versus the intellectual arguments of men. And he says in chapter 2, verse 6, we do speak wisdom, but we speak amongst those who are mature, those who've come to Christ and know what God is about. And he says it's not the wisdom of the world, nor of the rulers of this world, which comes to nothing. He says there is a wisdom, but it's a God-given wisdom. And as the apostle works his way through this letter to these Christians, he's going to talk to them about the arguments that they bring up. Look at chapter 3, verse 18. He says, let no man deceive himself. If anyone among you thinks that he is wise, in this age let him become a fool, that he may become wise. He's saying, if you think you're clever, then I want you to discount your intellectual learning, and I want you to see the wisdom of God. Now, he's not saying that intelligence is wrong, for intelligence identifies a creator God. Romans chapter 1 would make that very clear. Man with his perception, man with his awareness, with his recording and identifying things and systems and processes and perfection will identify the clever, intelligent hand of God in creation. But man by intelligence cannot work God out, nor come to his understanding. So he's saying is, the preaching of the cross is to them that are perishing a foolish thing, but to those that are saved it is the power of God. The preaching of the cross, it unleashes a power that only comes from God in saving souls, transforming lives, blessing men and women with the great work of salvation through faith in Christ. And the whole purpose is that man will not be triumphant intellectually in conquering God, but God will make available to all mankind salvation through simple trust in him and simple faith in him. I destroy the wisdom of the wise, bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. He says, where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater in this world? God has made foolish the wisdom of this world. Back in Isaiah chapter 29, God says, I will proceed to do, verse 14, I will proceed to do a marvellous thing among these people, a marvellous work, even a marvellous work and a wonder, for the wisdom of their wise men shall perish. The wisdom of their wise men shall perish. And so today, even in our society, the gospel is preached, and it is not by cleverness that a man or a woman comes to God, but by faith. And so he goes on to say that after that, in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. God divinely ordered it. You couldn't discover God by your cleverness. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching, the foolishness of the message that was preached, to save them that believe. That's how you get saved. You get saved by believing. You get saved by resting on what God has revealed to your heart and soul. You get saved by trusting the work of salvation through the work of Christ on the cross. And I pray that as you listen to this, if you are saved, you'll rejoice in that. If you're not saved, you'll be challenged to seek God on his terms, to trust God for what his Son has done for you by dying and taking the judgment of God for sin. And thank God he rose from the dead on the third day, according to the Scriptures. May God bless his word to us today.